What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you my second place Yubel profile. Now this is post, of course, Battles of Legend, now that we have Phantom of Yubel. It is going to be an extra shiny profile. Massive shout out to Kyron who has let me borrow his secret rare Yubel. Personally, I quite prefer the original Yubel. I just think the old kind of print style looks really kind of cool, but he did say that if I'm going to be showing off Phantom of Yubel in Quarter Century, I need to show off everything. So this deck did incredibly well today. My matchups were Dragon Link, which was very interesting because they ended their board on Red Ice Flare Metal and just tried to burn me out, and it kind of showed the resilience of this deck to be able to play through that. Then I ended up facing Elemental Heroes, which is obviously quite interesting because it was like Jaden versus Yubel itself, so that was a really kind of cool matchup as well. Then game 3 was my only loss of the entire tournament, which is Snake Eyes Kashtira, and basically we went into game 3, they opened up Imperm Nibiru, Witch with a discard, and then they also opened up Lightning Storm and Duster, and I forgot to use the Muckrocker effect to protect, and didn't play around Lightning Storm, big sad. And then the last round was up against, trying to rack my brain to remember which one it was Evil Eyes. And that was obviously a very good game as well because that person ended up getting top 123, or ended up in 122, sorry, from UK Nats. So obviously they knew what they were doing today, and it kind of showed what Yubel could do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the entire profile, explain my choices behind it, and then I'll also show you my side deck as well, so you can kind of get an idea of what the deck will look like going forward. Obviously this will change in like 3 weeks time when we do get Infinite Forbidden, because you can now add the Fiendsmith into the deck. That being said, I wouldn't actually change the engine in the deck that I would be using, because the Fiendsmiths are great. You just have now multiple ways to get to the rank 6 of DDD High Wave Caesar, and that's what's going to put in a lot of work for you as well. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. So starting off with the Yubel monsters themselves, of course, we are playing one Yubel and one Terra Incarnate. You can play the Ultimate Nightmare if you want to. Honestly, I feel that it's probably more of a brick than anything else. And the one big thing that you're going to want to be doing with this deck more times than not is you're going to want to make sure you're always recycling your Terra Incarnates and your Yubels back to the deck for your Phantom of Yubel, because then you can obviously constantly keep destroying Spirit of Yubel to bring out Yubel, destroy Yubel, bring out Terra Incarnate. Speaking of, we are playing free Spirit of Yubel. Now, a lot of you kind of get a little bit lost in this, but if you actually read Spirit of Yubel, it's only the following effect once per turn, and when it says that, it's the effect after that sentence, and that is the add a spell or trap that lists Yubel when it's summoned. Its destruction effect is not a once per turn, so if you constantly keep able to bring this back from the graveyard and destroy it, you can keep floating into Yubel, which is incredibly powerful, and a lot of people undervalue how good that is, because you now have loads of cards, specifically stuff like Phantom of Yubel can destroy a Yubel card in the deck, which can allow you to destroy a Spirit of Yubel, and that will then float you into a Yubel, which is really, really kind of cool and very powerful as well. I'll take you through all the Yubel cards, and then I'll take you through, obviously, everything else. But your secondary starter of the entire deck, of course, is going to be your Samsara of the Lotus. You obviously want to combo this off with the Dark Beckoning Beast, and obviously you can make this more consistent because you do have Nightmare Throne that can search out itself, or, of course, can search out the Dark Beckoning Beast as well. I'm then also playing 3 Gruesome Grey Squirmer. Again, this card puts in a huge amount of work, which is why I've now put it back up to 3. In my previous build, I was playing it at 3 as well, but before that, I was looking at like 2s and 1s. Definitely the wrong ratios. Like, opening this up can be incredibly important, because a lot of people were actually holding their hand traps back for when they get to Spirit of Yubel, and then being able to go, okay, cool, Grey Squirmer, summon down, pop the Spirit so it dodges that targeted effect is really important. Not to mention that in the combo, you hold this back for as long as you possibly can, and that's how you can get yourself into a Triple D High Wave King Caesar on your end board. And your end board is usually something like a Muckracker plus a Rage, plus a Phantom of Yubel, plus a Varaldris, and of course a DDD High Wave King, which bar Dark Lord No More, no one is breaking that board. And then, of course, for your other Yubel cards, we are playing triple Nightmare Throne. So, obviously, Throne can get you into Grey Squirmer. It can get you into Spirit. Sorry, not Spirit. It can also get you into Samsara the Lotus. And, of course, your Dark Beckoning Beast, which is your other ideal normal summon. A way you can get to Nightmare Throne is, of course, Terraforming. And then, of course, we are playing 2 Nightmare Pain. And then on this particular profile, or this particular build, what I changed out is I was actually playing the 1 Mature Chronicle rather than the Eternal Favourite. Now, the reason I went with Mature Chronicle is because it's so easy to loop back your cards with your Terra Incarnate and Yubel and then constantly keep popping and bring them back to the board. It's very easy to get this up to 5 tokens to search you out Super Poly. Yes, of course, Eternal Favourite does that exact same job, but Super Poly is good for going first and second. Plus, off the back of that as well, even if I don't decide to search out Super Poly, I have the ability to special summon back a Yubel, which sometimes you might actually need to get you into your rank 10 Omni Negate. And then on top of that, it does have additional effects to either add one of your banished cards, banish a card from the deck, or destroy a card on the field. So all of those effects give you a little bit more flexibility than Eternal Favourite, but you can very easily play Eternal Favourite if you choose to. I personally went with this one, and just skipping ahead a bit as well, I was also playing the 1 Super Poly, just because I felt that I needed that way of being able to get to a Super Poly to break an opponent's board. You don't have to play this. This and this can come out if you want to, and if it does, it will adapt free spaces in your extra deck. But ultimately, I felt that this was a really good choice to have, and it did put in a lot of work because I was basically ending my board on the exact same board I was mentioning to you earlier, but because I'd already hard opened up Nightmare Pain or a hard opened up Mature Chronicle, either or, I was able to add to that end board the ability of being able to get a Super Poly as well, which kind of added another layer of threat to my opponent. Your other main normal summon of the deck, of course, is triple Dark Beckoning Beast and 2 Opening the Spirit Gates. Again, I've gone from 1 to 2 now. I feel 2 is even more important because it technically does act as a starter. I'm still definitely not sold on 3. And the reason I'm not sold on 3 is a lot of people forget that this is a mandatory effect to add a Dark Beckoning Beast. So if you were to open up, for example, all 3 Dark Beckoning Beasts and then use to search out Opening Spirit Gates, you can't activate it without putting the Dark Beckoning back into the deck. You can very easily put Dark Beckoning back into the deck because it is a 0/0 fiend, so it can be spun back into the deck to make a Phantom of Yubel. I don't feel that 3 Opening Spirit Gate, I feel it's too much. Some people will play 3, that's entirely up to you. 2 work perfectly fine for me. And the reason for that is if you only see Opening Spirit Gates and nothing else, keeping in mind that we are playing stuff like, if I activate Opening Spirit Gates and I've got a Spirit in the hand, if my opponent stops me getting to the Dark Beckoning Beast, or if I get to the Dark Beckoning Beast, normal summon it, search out a second Opening Spirit Gates, because I'm not playing Amirage in the extra deck, if they do imperm or stop the beast or anything whatsoever, or I can't get another monster to the board to link it off, it then just kind of ends there and gets a bit stale. So obviously I'd always want to open up a Dark Beckoning Beast instead of the Opening Spirit Gates. Again, everyone's going to have their differences, opinions on this one. 3 and 2 has worked perfectly fine for me. For the Unchained engine, I'm playing the 1 Shavara, the 1 Shyama, and the 1 Abominable Chamber. Now, obviously, in my previous builds, I wasn't playing the Shyama, and what I was doing with the Unchained engine is I was using it as fodder to get into the Fire Princess. I'm still playing the Fire Princess in this build, but again, I'll talk to you about that when I get to the extra deck, because there's a couple of different flex spots that you can move around if you want to. The Shyama, I felt, just has a lot of added effects to this, and what I mean by that is, what you do is you hold back your Grave Squirmer, and then what you do is you summon down your Grave Squirmer, use this effect to pop a Yubel monster, which will trigger the Yama in the graveyard. The Yama banishes, and then you make sure you pop the Abominable Chamber that you set off a Shavara to then let you get into Shyama, and then basically that's how you get into the Triple D High Wave King. I have been testing it with the Fiendsmiths, and although the Fiendsmiths add more access to the DD High Wave King, I still like the idea of keeping the Shyama in the deck, because it's one of them ones that if I can't access the Fiendsmiths, I can still go down this route to get me the High Wave King, and if I can still access the Fiendsmiths, then what I do is I leave this in the deck and I just get the Chamber, and then I use the Chamber to bring back the Rage from the graveyard. So it still has its double purposes, and it does work out incredibly well for you. I'll show you the combo at the end of the video just so you can kind of see how it goes and how it works and what you're doing with adding Phantom to it as well. But I'll also do a separate video taking you through all the different types of combos you can do with Yubel as well. For the hand traps, I was main decking triple Ash Blossom and triple Imperm, and the reason I was maining 3 of each of these is I was also main decking triple Crossout. Now Crossout actually puts in a lot of work because the highest played cards that you are going to lose to will of course be Imperms and Ashes. Now, obviously, in my match with Heroes, they were also on Veiler, so that's definitely another card that I needed to consider that I didn't. And another one to also consider would be the Ghost Mourner. But what you need to remember is Ghost Mourner will only hit your special summon monsters, which means they're only really ever going to use them to hit your Spirit of Yubel. Now, obviously, hitting the Spirit of Yubel can be quite painful, but the idea is that by that point, you might have a Shavara in the hand, you might also have the ability of getting into a Grey Squirmer, which will allow you to dodge said Mourner. So really, the only thing you need to worry about is a Veiler or Imperm on your Dark Beckoning Beast, and then, of course, an Ash on the Samsara D Lotus. So one thing that I might highly consider is maybe take out an Ash and an Imperm and put in 2 Veilers, but that really is up to you. That's not where Crossout ends, because Crossout can still be incredibly important. In the mirror match, it will be massively helpful. It can also allow you to banish your own Yubel, and then you can use the Mature Chronicle to add the Yubel back to the hand. Technically, you can banish anything you want. You just need to hold on to it. So Spirit of Yubel's battle effect can be very, very helpful. So activating Crossout, banishing the Spirit of Yubel, activating Mature Chronicle to add it back could be a little bit of a niche interaction. That being said, the reason that Crossout is also so good is that it can now start be using some of your side deck targets. So against stuff like Lightning Storm, for example, against Harpy's Feather Duster. One that I highly expect will be used at Euros will, of course, be Dark Ruler No More. So being able to go, okay, they hit you with a Dark Ruler No More, which will ultimately end up losing you the game, and you're able to go, cool, Crossout, cool, Dark Ruler No More, can be massively, massively helpful. Then, of course, we've got the 1 call but a grade. This is only ever really going to hit your Ash, but it can, of course, hit you Bells, Veilers, Mourners, and everything else. then I am still playing 3 Pot of Prosperity. I think this card's too good. So the cards that I usually banish off of this will be a mixture of, if I feel that I need Super Poly in the match, I might consider getting rid of these if I can get to a Yubel monster. If I'm going first, I will be banishing the Anguish. If I'm going second, I'm banishing the Rage. If I don't feel that I need to go down the Princess line, I'll banish those. If I'm not going to be able to get into the Wave King, I'll banish that as well. But the idea is that this is just going to help you dig for your cards. And there are a lot of times where I've been highly tempted to activate this before I activate a Dark Beckoning Beast or anything else, so that I can have a look to see if I can draw into an Extender, if I can go into a Crossout. And if I do, then I know that my combo is completely safe to go off. The last card I'm playing is the 1/1-for-1. It is a 41 card main deck because I did put in the Super Poly and of course the Mature Chronicle. So if you wanted to, you could take out a 1/1, you could take out a Pot of Prosperity if you wanted to keep it exactly 40. But honestly, this has worked quite nicely for me. And in the Snake Eyes matchup, it wasn't so much of a brick for anything. It was more so that I forgot an effect and they opened up incredibly well to break my board. So just part and part of it really. It's not a, like I said, it's not a misplay and it's not a brick, so I can't really take it out on anything else specifically. Moving on to the extra deck, of course, unfortunately, you are going to be needing to play 2 Phantom of Yubels. And the reason you're going to need to play 2 Phantom of Yubels is it is not a hard once per turn to be summoned. So the idea is you can summon the first one, and if they try to Nibiru you, you tribute it off, you float your Yubel cards around, and then you can end your turn by making a second one. There may be the odd niche occasions where a third comes up, but like heck am I going to get a third Quarter Century. So massive shout out to Kyron who was able to hook me up with these Quarter Centuries. I just kind of felt that it was a no-brainer to get this card. This card's just incredibly insane. The fact that it was brutally short printed as a secret rare just made it incredibly harder for everyone else to get hold of. The secrets are about £50 a copy. Obviously, if you can only get hold of one, then one will do the job for you. But ideally, you want 2, just because it's one of them ones that if you already use its negate effect, cool. Annoyingly, you can't shuffle the first one back in because it can never be used as fusion material. But the idea is once you've used the first one, when it comes back to your turn as well, if you use the first one during your opponent's turn, is you can start your turn by shuffling back your materials and ending on a Phantom of Yubel, or starting with a Phantom of Yubel that can then protect your Nightmare Pain or anything else. Not to mention the other cards you can start building the board on top of as well. So 2 Phantom of Yubels, pretty straightforward and simple on that one. And then of course you got your 1 Unchained Soul Rage, your Anguish, and of course your Yama. And then of course your ideal targets to come off the back of these, whether you're going to go Anguish into Rage or you're going to be going either of these into an SP Little Knight, puts an incredible amount of work in. The Muckraker is actually a lot more important in this particular build right now, just because it helps you use that discard to bring back the Shavara to then make your rank 6 your DD the higher Wave King. Again, this is one of the flex spots that you could possibly take out when you do go down the Fiendsmith route, but it will ultimately come down to, is your Fiendsmiths going to be that important for you? Are you going to be able to get hold of them? Like Konami could do a Tempai, great, all supers, or they're going to be doing a high max rarity, which is obviously going to be secrets, very painful. I've kept in the Appaloosa. There was times I was highly considering taking it out, but then there was a couple of times where I was actually making a build and I can make a 3 negate Appaloosa or a 2 negate Appaloosa. And when I'm ending my board on this, plus like if I'd already hard open up a Shavara or a Shayama and I didn't need to trigger the Yama to pop it and lose the trap card, is I could keep the trap card, use the Rage plus 2 more to get into an Appaloosa, which gave me a 3 negate Appaloosa, backed up with a Veratus, a DDD High Wave King, and then of course a Phantom of Yubel. And then if I felt that the DDD High Wave King wasn't going to be that more effective for me, but Yubel would, then I'd actually go into Appaloosa and it'd put in a lot more work for me. And then of course we've got the one, Veratus, obviously generic, rank 10, Omni Negate, puts in a huge amount of works. And what you need to remember is its effect, when it negates, you can detach an additional material to pop any card on the field. Not to mention this obviously instigates the OTK with the Amber Whale, because you would attack with the Amber Whale, then attack with the Veratus would pop the Amber Whale, and then the Amber Whale will trigger to summon back the Princess. That's obviously not why I've got this line in here. This line is just still really, really good to be able to grind out some games. There's a couple of times when you'd go Princess, Princess revive Shavara, Shavara and Princess into Amber Whale, and then you're able to continue making your board. Now, honestly, I think I probably made this play once throughout the entire tournament. It's one of the ones that I was trying not to play as much, because I do feel that once the Fiendsmiths come out, then this becomes the Link 1, and this becomes the Fusion Monster, which gets you 1200 damage of burn. So that's probably what I'd be subbing them out for. But right now, what I like about this particular build is it gives me that ability to go all out, all to the wall, put my entire board on the, my entire hand, my entire deck, extra deck and everything on the end board, and it's like, break it, you win, don't break it, I'm going to win, and it's very tough to break. But then it also gives you that ability of, right, okay, well if my opponent is playing Dark Rule no more, and I want to play around it, I can still go the Princess line, I can still set on my graveyard with a Rage and a Princess, so that I need to use a Dark Ruler a lot earlier to deal with Phantom of Yubel, and then I can still crack back with a Princess and a Rage coming off the back of the trap card. For the super poly targets, of course, you've got your generic Mud Dragon, your Garura, and then, of course, your Yubel, the Loving Defender. Yes, of course, this is probably a lot easier to make now because you can just go into Phantom of Yubel. But the issue is, again, remember, Phantom of Yubel cannot be used as fusion material. The only thing that the Phantom of Yubel will do for you is let you have a Yubel on the board. So you're still going to need to make sure you get a Yubel monster to the board in order to contact fuse, or technically super poly fuse, your opponent's entire board, which is why a lot of people are now cutting this card, and it's where you could also arguably cut the super poly board. The reason I've kept the super poly board in is for the pure fact, like I said, with Mature Chronicle, I can search it. So I just quite like having that option than needing it and not having it kind of thing. But I could very easily, these are the super poly, these are the prosperity targets, more times than not as well. And the last card, of course, is the Triple D High Wave King Caesar, which in this version you use both of your Unchained monsters to overlay to make it. And a lot of people forget that this card's incredibly cracked, because any spell or monster effect that would trigger to summon, or even a trap card that triggers to summon a monster, you can just detach material and negate it, and it's not a hard once per turn, so you get to do that effect twice, which is insane. So that's it for the entire main deck and the extra deck. I'm now going to show you the side deck and give you examples of what I've chosen. Now, a lot of people will be like, well, that's not an ulti Harpy's Feather Duster. This isn't a max rarity deck profile. Well, honestly, I do have an ulti, but I personally prefer the game version, the WC4, sorry. I just like the way that it looks. Closest to a quarter century as anything else. But Duster with 2 Lightning Storms was my back row options of choice. And the reason I went with these as my back row options of choice, which arguably this conflicts with the next card I'm going to show you, is I went with Triple Phantasme. And the reason I went with Triple Phantasme is I like the idea of using Phantasme to draw me into D-Shifter, but it could also draw me into a Draw and Lock Bird as well. Now, obviously, these 9 cards, Shifters is just one of them ones that in the right matchup, if you drop a Shifter on a Snake Eyes opponent or anything else, then you could more times than not win the duel. The Draw and Lock Bird was one of them cards that is a great option for cross out, because I want to cross out my own Draw and Lock Bird to make sure that I don't get hit with draw, because that can be incredibly painful with this deck because it does search a lot. It can play around it, but straight away, if you activate Throne, you can get drawled. If you activate Dark Beckoning, you can get drawled. If you activate Gates, you can get drawled. The only one that you can play around with draw is if you start with a Samsara D Lotus, and even then you're then falling into the trap of Ash Blossom. So you do need to be a little bit careful. There's a reason I went with these 9 hand traps. Again, Phantasme was quite a nice option because I used this in the Evil Eye matchup. Annoyingly, I opened up Shifter and Phantasme. But what I liked was Phantasme allowed me to put Shifters back into my deck if they were dead. It allowed me to put Yubels back into the deck, refresh my hand up a little bit, get me into more hand traps, get me into more starters if I needed to. And then it gave me that all-important targeted protection. So if my opponent did try to imperm my Dark Beckoning Beast, I could protect it with Phantasme. If they tried to preemptively imperm or Veiler my Samsara D Lotus, I could protect it as well. So Phantasme actually put in a lot of work for me, and I quite like the premise of it. The idea is, or the issue is, trying to find the space for everything else, because the last card I was playing was triple Skill Drain. Now, I never put Skill Drain in, but I can definitely see where putting Skill Drain in could be a massive advantage for you. This is definitely one of the ones I'm hoping, and this sounds really bad, but I'm hoping that Konami actually ban this card or limit the card, and then I can instantly go, cool, yeet, I don't need this anymore, and then this opens up 3 more slots for the new format, and the new cards that I'd be looking to put into is like Dark Rule No More, so I've got it as a cross-out target, obviously got Cosmic Cyclone as well, so it really is kind of dependent on the environment you're taking it to, but I would just like the idea of Konami saying, yeah, don't worry, we're going to get rid of this card for you, and then it opens up 3 slots for me. So I'll try and see if I've got the... Do I have the rest of my side deck? Like, I mean, the other side deck cards that I was missing was stuff like Nibiru that I would have liked to do. Yeah, here you go. So these are the other cards that I'd consider. So like Dark Rule No More, Cosmic Cyclone, Dimensional Barrier. These cards just didn't even make it in. Triple Tactic Talents. So like those cards I'd highly want to consider putting into this side deck, but I just never really got the chance to, like... I felt that these were the strongest options, and I really wanted to test out the Phantasme Shifter kind of plays. The only ones that I would highly consider swapping out would be Lightning Storms for Cosmics, but I just like the ideas that these would be Raigekis and Dusters. So that also being said, these could very easily be Raigekis, and the benefits of these being Raigekis is that they wouldn't clash if I put a Phantasme on the board. So you kind of give and take a little bit on that one. So that's it for the entire main deck, that's it for the entire side deck, and of course the extra deck. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the very basic combo. Now obviously it does require both of your starters, and it will require you to be uninterrupted, but the idea is that you can get to these through Nightmare Throne, you can get to them through other kind of options as well. You could hard open stuff like Grey Squirmer, but just for now, just to use these as like 3 blanks to show you what this combo can do, and it will show you the ultimate end board of this deck. So I'm just going to zoom this out a little bit. Apologies I didn't flatten out the entire mat, I just wanted to show off the Yubel mat as well. So you'll start off with both of these. Of course, you'll go with the Dark Beckoning Beast. I'm pretty much sure I've shown this combo a million times before, but the idea is this is going to show you like one of the strongest end boards you could possibly end on. So you'd go for your Dark Beckoning Beast. This will search you out your Opening Spirit Gates. You'd activate the Opening Spirit Gates, and this would get you your second Dark Beckoning Beast, which is going to act as discard fodder later on in the turn. Your additional normal summon will be the Samsara. You're going to tribute off said Samsara to get you into your Spirit of Yubel. And then this effect, of course, will get you your Nightmare Pain. Now, obviously, if you've already opened up the Nightmare Pain or a Grey Scrummer, you can go for a Chronicle if you want to. You'd go Nightmare Pain, you'd destroy your Spirit of Yubel. Of course, if any of your starters was a Nightmare Throne, you'll be able to go that little bit further. But I just wanted to show you like where you could be playing around with. So you destroy your Spirit of Yubel. This is then going to allow you to search out a Grey Squirmer, wherever it may be. There you go, search out a Grey Squirmer. And then, of course, this will allow you to float your Spirit of Yubel into a Yubel. Now, keep in mind at the moment, if you still have your 3 blanks in the hand as well, you've now got a full hand of 5 as it exactly stands, and you've got a Spirit of Yubel and your Samsara in the graveyard. I highly advise do not use your Spirit of Yubel for your Phantom of Yubel. Use a Yubel because you can get it out of the deck easier later on. So you're going to put both of these together. You're going to go into a Yama. Yama's effect is going to trigger. Now, at this exact moment in time, this is technically your 5th summon, so this is where your opponent can Nibiru you. If they Nibiru you, they're not going to get much value, but the next card that you're going to make is going to be Phantom of Yubel, and that's when you're going to be in a very good position. So you'll now spin back your Dark Beckoning Beast and your Yubel, and the reason I choose to put both of those two rather than the Samsara is if I can end my board on a Yubel, then of course technically I can also end my board with an additional form of interruption. But we're going to spin those two back. We're going to go into a Phantom of Yubel. Let me just zoom out a little bit more so you can see a bit more of the board. And then you can see that our entire hand is like this. So you still haven't used the Grey Scrummer, you still haven't used Opening Spirit Gates. So you can use Opening Spirit Gates, discard the Dark Beckoning. This will then bring you back your Spirit of Yubel. And this is what I'm saying, that your Spirit of Yubel to float into Yubel is not a hard once per turn. So I can go Shyama, target the, Shavara, target the Spirit, destroy the Spirit. This will then allow me to float back into my Yubel. So I've just looped back the card that I've just put back to the deck. And I'm protected from Nibiru because I can still use Phantom to destroy Spirit of Yubel. Obviously, you just won't get as much advantage if you use this because you would not be able... You could technically destroy your own Yubel, but you kind of don't want to. You want to save that. So then what you do is you'll link your Shavara plus your Yama and you're going to go into your Rage. So we're going to get the Rage onto the board as well. You then trigger the Shavara's effect. This is going to allow you to get hold of the trap card. Now, obviously in this scenario or route of play, you want to keep your Rage on the board because you're going to be popping the trap card to let you extend that little bit further. Just going to move Yubel out of the way because you want to make sure it doesn't go to the zone that Rage points to. At this point here, you will now summon down your Grey Scrummer, which can go to the zone that Rage points to. You're going to specifically use Grey Scrummer's effect to pop your own Yubel. In doing so, you'll be able to go Chain Link 1 Yubel, you'll be able to go Chain Link 2 Yama and banish the Yama. Yama will then float back into a Spirit, while your original Yubel will float you into a Terror Incarnate, so you've just got monsters on the board. You'll resolve the Yama by destroying your Abominable Chamber, and in doing so, this is going to go to the graveyard and let you special summon out your Shyama. So now your board is currently looking like this. You can use the Shyama as link fodder if you want to, but honestly, you can keep it on the board as well. So it doesn't make much of a difference how you want to do it. But what you'll do is you'll use your Grey Scrummer and your Terror Incarnate. You're going to put both of those to the graveyard. This will then allow you to link into the Muckraker, wherever it may be, Muckraker. Now, of course, if you feel that making the Triple D High Wave King or you already open a Shavara or anything else is not going to be worth it for you, then you just go Grey Scrummer, Terror Incarnate plus your Rage, and that will then go into a Appaloosa, and then you obviously wouldn't pop the trap card, use the trap card to bring the Rage back during your opponent's turn. As this currently stands, keep in mind, Muckraker only Fiend locks you when you use its effect. If I haven't used this effect, I'm not Fiend locked. So, while I am not Fiend locked, I am going to use Grey Scrummer's effect in the graveyard to banish it, and this will let me bring back the Yubel. I'll then overlay Yubel and Spirit of Yubel before I Fiend lock myself in order to make the Veratus. I'm then going to use Muckraker's effect to discard one of the blanks in my hand, and this will then allow me to revive the Shyama. I am now Fiend locked, so I'll now overlay my Shyama and my Shavara, and I'm going to add in the Triple D High Wave King. Boom, there we go. So this is how my board has currently ended. I've got 2 more cards in the hand. I obviously have used all of my resources from the graveyard, being my Squirmer and my Yama. So if they do break my board, it is pretty much going to be GG. But as it currently stands, I've got a Monster Negate. And what's really important on this one is you probably want to make sure that your Veratus gets used first so that it can put the Yubel back into the graveyard. So that when you do choose to use Phantom's effect and tribute it as cost, you actually get to destroy another Spirit in the deck. And that Spirit in the deck will allow you to float back to a Yubel. And in doing so, as this currently stands, your opponent is still always forced to attack the Yubel. Of course, you can detach an additional material off of the back of the Veratus because then that will allow you to pop any card on the field, but we're not going to worry about that now. You've then still got 2 Summon Negates off of the back of your Caesar, and because the Shyama will go back to the will go to the graveyard, not to the deck because it was detached as a material. Plus, we didn't even need to use this effect in the previous turn. You've then, of course, still got Rage. Rage can then contact Link with one of your opponent's monsters, and this will then get you into an SP Little Knight. And that SP Little Knight will then banish a card on summon. And then if they activate any card effect, you can banish any of these to protect. Obviously, you banish itself and then banish one card. Not to mention, if any of your fiends would be destroyed by card effect, you can obviously use Muckraker's effect as well to protect. You've got a follow-up of the opening Spirit Gates to get you back into Spirit of Yubel during your next turn. You've obviously got Nightmare Pain in rotation as well, plus the 2 random cards in your hand if they're hand traps or anything else, and the draw for turn. So you've just got so much resource. Like, this combo is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, it does rely on you resolving your Dark Beckoning and your Samsara, but that's of course why we do play we play Crossout Designator, we play Called by the Grave. You want to try and protect as much as possible. And you saw that we had 2 cards left in our hand at the end. So from those 2 cards, one of those could have been a Crossout. Also from those 2 cards, you could very easily also get yourself into, if any of those, like I said, was a hard open of a Mature Chronicle, a Grave Squirmer, or of course a Nightmare Pain, then you could very easily search into a Super Poly, and then you'd add Super Poly to your backline round there, and you'd only be left with 1 more card in the hand. On top of that as well, as you're making your plays, remember that as long as you control a level 10 monster, the opening Spirit Gates will let you add a continuous spell card back from the graveyard. So sometimes I'll actually find myself discarding a Nightmare Pain or discarding a Chronicle if I've hard opened them to summon down a Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel will then search me the one that I'm missing, and then I can activate Gates to add the other one back from the graveyard and then activate and go again. So you're getting a lot of resource. It just is a little bit more specific to do that loop right now, because obviously the only 2 continuous spells we play is a second Gates or of course a the Mature Chronicle or the Nightmare Pain. So that's it for the entire profile. I hope I've given you as much breakdown and information as possible. If you want to see a dedicated combo video, if you want to see a dedicated test down video for this particular build, then make sure you smash that like button. Getting it above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock that for you. For now, as absolutely always, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.